Hey everybody, Gary Williams here for Toolbarn.com's Barn Banter, and I tell you what, we talk a lot about craftsmen buying our great tools from the Tool Barn and all the work they do with them and all the work they get done and on and on and on. But one thing that I don't think we talk enough about is how these guys that really know what they're doing take those tools and in a lot of cases they turn their projects or their work into things that are fun for a lot of other people. And we've got a great example of that today. We're here with Brian Tipton, the owner of Zonkey Skateboard. And Brian, I tell you what, he makes these things kind of basically from scratch. You don't grow the trees yourself.
I wish, in time.
In the backyard pretty soon. But I'll tell you what, these are real works of art. And we're just going to let Brian kind of explain what he does to put these things together and the process that you go through, because these really are beautiful.
Thank you.
You know, they're really cool. So tell me a little bit about these. How long does it take? How do you make them? Just go through the process.
Yeah, you bet. So obviously this is the finished product in our spray booth here. We've got a variety of different shapes and sizes.
Right.
Ultimately, we take the raw product. Usually we get the lumber in 4/4 approximately, or 5/4.
Okay.
And that is the fun process of going through and kind of in your head playing a puzzle, if you will.
Any special kind of wood?
Yeah. We get local woods, maples, walnuts, etc. But it's also fun to put in more of your exotic woods. For example, this is a red oak with a wenge and a purple heart. So by putting those, U.S. woods with some of the exotic woods from various countries, they really do tend to pop a lot more.
Right.
It's all based off the ultimate style of riding you're wanting to do, as well as the functionality. So for example, this is one of our original versions. It's a blocktail. We call it the Campus Cruiser. Was designed for essentially college students going from dorms to their classrooms, etc., high school students, etc. It's just a little bit bigger, gives you a little bit more room to cruise around if you have a backpack, etc. Then you get the boards such as this, which we refer to as our flagship. Flagship being it's a very simple design. We can crank these guys out, keep the price point down for folks to ultimately have an introductory price board for kids. This is the same kind of concept, just a little bit smaller, a lot more mobile in the aspect for that. And then these, which you might not be able to see very well, but ultimately this is a wedge tail. This is actually meant to be skated inside various ramps and whatnot. A lot of kids don't realize that, back in the day there weren't plywood boards. They were old plank style like this. So we're not reinventing the wheel by any means. But again, this seated joint here, what we have here for our wedge tail is very, very specific to our company. And that's nice because it gives you a place to put your heel on when you're out wanting to pop an ollie or do any kind of more technical moves. So there's a lot of a lot of different variety in between there as well.
Right.
It's just these are kind of more of our popular styles from kind of our introductory and mid-range to kind of our more upper end, if you will.
And these are all woods that are laminated together when you process, and just rough idea. How long does it take for you to do, say, something like this?
Something like this, ballpark, from the time that it's being drawn up to the time it's finished and sitting in right here, I'd say approximately 4 hours, up to some of the more advanced with more laminations, longer materials, etc., up to 6.5, 7 hours.
Wow. So, give me a high-level view of the process you go through to put one of these together.
You bet. So again, it starts with the raw lumber itself. What I'll do is I'll take my schematic, if you will, that I've drawn up with tons of scribbles all over it. I will start off there by, again, just ripping the pieces of wood itself. Now, one thing that happens is I'm tight on space here, but I've learned to utilize what I can. And so an investment that people don't have right now, I highly encourage, are buying what are called grip tights. These guides are fantastic to where you can actually run a piece of wood through, as small as even a 1/4 inch. I can let go on this side and catch on the receiving side and nothing happens at all. So it is a very good safety thing. Ultimately we want those things in the end.
Sure.
So when it's all said and done, we get our stringers, everything ripped out. I'll then kind of Rolodex, squish them together, just dry.
Right.
See if they look right. And from there, we'll actually go to the plane or the surface planer itself and bring them down to not only the thickness we're looking for,
right,
but also then we're going to plane the inside edges, which will be laminated together. Okay. So typically I'll do the top surfaces first and then the edges. Then we'll go through and actually apply our adhesives and get our clamps ready. We'll then put them together, make sure everything's lining up, start clamping away, really using your fingers along the joints to make sure they're even.
Right.
A lot of people you'll realize what your overall thickness is if you have a 1/16 high on one spot and a 1/16 low on another spot, you got to bring that board down a minimum of 1/8 of an inch. So it's really important to have those laminations flush as you can. So don't feel bad about taking a mallet and really getting merry with it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when you're done, it's ends up being something like this. This is the blank itself. This is what will be shaped here shortly. What I've done is removed some of the excess glue once it is clamped and squeezed out. Usually encourage doing that right off the bat. You can scrape it off, but ultimately you do not want to run that extra glue through the planer if possible.
Right,
It'll blow your blades out real quick.
Yeah.
At this point, what we'll do is actually feed it through the planer. We're going to end up kissing both sides about a 32nd of an inch just to make sure that those are butter smooth. Once that's done, we'll take our jigs, whichever shape we desired to do, throw it on top there, draw it out with a pencil. If it looks good, at that point it's time to go to the bandsaw.
Yeah.
That's kind of it for the time being, and then we go on to the routering and the edging.
So, in a sense, when you're in the process of putting all these separate pieces together, it's a little bit like a vertical puzzle. You're taking puzzle pieces and you're fitting them together, and you're making sure they fit precisely and seamlessly, and you know, those almost look like they're painted on. Although I know they're separate pieces of wood, but that's.
And the big thing is one thing that helps you out too is it's really easy, especially working solo, to run pieces of material through and then something will fall on the ground. What's important is what you'll want to do is, whether you're feeding it through the table saw or feeding it through a planer, is I will always scribe a line on my infeed side, and as I push the pieces through, I'll number them like a Rolodex or a card stack: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. So my tops and bottoms are always in line in case I ever drop anything.
Right.
So you ultimately want that grain that you split to match up as it goes across the way, ideally. So it looks like if you push it back together, it was just the same piece of wood.
So you're combining art, you're combining engineering, you're combining carpentry or woodworking rather, and you're doing all that stuff in the course of producing really cool skateboards.
Yeah, you definitely. We like to think so.
Yeah, cool, very good. Well, look, I you know, I can only guarantee you one thing, and that's that I probably will not be riding one of these skateboards in the near future. But I love looking at them. They're great. They're great pieces of art, I think, when you take a look at these things. They're quality made. It's Zonkey Skateboard, and you know, a lot of the tools that you need for projects like this, you can get those, of course, at toolbarn.com. The skills you're going to have to pick up on your own. So thanks for being with us.